Hello everyone and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So as we all know, today was the big patch and AP formulas, add-ons, and everything have changed once again. So you should all see this change affected by your AP. And if you want to know more, just read the patch notes. But what I wanted to talk about today was skill add-ons. So as we all know, everything got reset. You have to put all your skills in again, so make sure to actually set your add-ons, enhancements, and presets again for whatever you play. So I wanted to talk about this for DK and what I chose and why. So the add-ons itself, the skills are the same as last time, but what they changed was they removed the monster damage, the human damage. You know, it makes sense, right? So obviously things are a little bit different nowadays, and I want to explain why I chose some of these. So keep in mind, this is day one. Things are bound to change, but I think this is what I am going to use and test for a little bit. So previously, I had all these skills. Like, those are fine. But the high priority things we want are crit rate, attack cast speed. I think movement speed is really nice. Obviously, back and crit damage are higher than down and air, so you want that. And of course, minus DP for, you know, enemies, so you can clear faster. So I think a lot of these are really good, and I want to talk about it. So airstrike and slanted balance is usually your openers for, I guess, Succession, Dark Knight, and we want to get crit rate, attack speed as your openers, because the way add-ons work is you use the skill and then you get a buff. It's not using the skill and then it affects the enemies. So like, you would open with a skill, you get these buffs, and then you dump the big damage abilities, right? So your opener would either be slanted or airstrike. Most of the time it's airstrike. So you want to open with the crit rate damage or the crit rate, and then you save the damage for the big ones. Attack and cast speed is generally always good. Slanted balance is one of those I'm still going to be testing. Movement speed is really nice. I chose plus 20 DP because I grind like more or less end game spots, and I think the 20 is nicer. But if you were to replace the 20 DP with anything, you could probably put, like, I guess, another special attack damage if you wanted to, or I guess another attack cast speed or more accuracy depending on what you're doing. So if you're a PvPer, you obviously want more accuracy, and or you could have another crit rate. But for me in particular, I personally like the plus 20 DP, especially if you grind Elviat or Zekia. That is the scary spot even at endgame. So I think the extra damage defense is actually really nice, along with movement speed. So that's one of the things that I think might be incorporated now that species damage or no PvE monster damage and human damage is no longer a thing. Wheel of Fortune is one of your big damage abilities, so you want to make sure to have at least a crit rate up and attack cast speed up with this one, because this one is at least before it was not a 100%. And so yeah, this is the crit rate on Wheel of Fortune is 50%. So you want to be as close to 100 as you can. So 50 plus let me see, you should have 5 crit hit over here. That's another 18 to 68. And then I personally have 1 crit rate crystal, so it's like 73. And then plus the 30 with your opener, so you should be using your Wheel of Fortune within 12 seconds of airstrike, which is easy. So in theory, by the time you're using Wheel of Fortune, you should have 100% crit rate over here. That's why we have this one. And of course, I personally try to keep my attack cast speed up 100% at a time. And so I think that's just nice to have, like, multiple effects of attack cast speed. I think what might be better is swapping the plus 20 DP from slanted and then minus 20 on Wheel of Fortune. I think I might swap those up, like just rotate the order, but it's one of those testing things. Next we have Lunacy of Vidir. Once again, another big damage ability. We probably are going to add this onto back attack and crit, just more of that. So your next abilities will probably be Spirit Legacy or Blooming Rose, depending on which order you use those abilities in. So once again, this is kind of like it's a really good skill, but depending on the order you use it, you could also be adding crit rate as well. So this is one of those things to help ensure you're keeping your crit rate up, because Dark Knight has a few abilities that aren't 100 that are also very good. So that was also one of those replacement thingies you could do. If you don't want to use Blooming Black Rose, another alternative would be, let me see. I think Unveiled or Enforcement are also very good ones. Those are also good alternatives. Enforcement is a very heavy hitting skill. However, it's one of those things where you it doesn't really flow well with your rotation, but it is a very strong one. Unveiled Dagger is also an opener. You could add whatever, or I've seen people use Comma Slash or Pervasive. Those are also good alternatives, but Comma Slash is a 13-second cooldown, which is very long, and Pervasive might actually be a very good one. So, that said, that's what I chose. Blooming is, I think, just a very solid one. Depending on which order you use, you might want to change the crit rate or crit damage to anything else. Since we do have a crit damage one on Lunacy, what you could change this one is, if you are grinding a spot where air attack or down is important, you could swap it for either one of those. Air attack is a lot harder to use in PvE than it is for anything else. That's why we have another crit. Down attack is also, if the enemy, you can knock down the enemy, then you do more damage. But I would say a lot of the times air and down is kind of useless for PvE. It's not useless, it's just specific grind spots. So that's why I think crit damage just across the board or back attack damage is really nice to have. That's why we have one of those. And yeah, actually hold on. I think I might actually swap that. So crit rate and then back attack. I thought we had it, but I just did it out. Oh, we do have a back and crit. Okay. So you could just swap these out depending on which order you do them in. And then finally we have Spirit Legacy, which is movement speed and minus 20 DP. Once again, it's a little bit of a filler because we lost a monster plus 30. So just debuffing enemies and then movement speed for another 7 to 12, because I don't think it's harder to keep this one up on cooldown depending on what you're doing. So this one just ensures your movement speed is up a little bit higher. So yeah, that's what I have. I think most of these are the same. What you would replace is basically your Blooming and Legacy with like whatever kind of special attack damage you're doing. And so if you want like crit rate, crit damage, you could always do... I think crit rate is more important, especially on Succession. If you're doing Awakening, on the other hand, that would be a little bit different. So yeah, if you want to copy this, keep in mind it's day one, but this is what I use. I think depending on your gear score, you don't have to use plus 20 DP. You could swap it out for literally anything else. But I just kind of grind, higher end spots. So that's what I have. Okay, so with that said, what I wanted to do is actually go into Awakening now and do some changes. So with that said, I haven't set this up. Let's do that now. Let me see. Hold on. Wait. Let me just make sure I have my preset saved on this one. And then let's go to Awakening. Okay. With that said, let's put all these in. By the way, it's something you're probably going to have to do. So just make sure to do that. The one I choose is Seed of Catastrophe. And the reason why I think this one is just overall is because it just gives super armor on, the effect, and you're using this constantly. I've seen people use, a few other things. Like I've seen people use this on Shattering, and I've also seen people use on Spirit Hunt. I think Seed of Catastrophe is just generally the safest ability for your core. And so that's what I would choose. All right, let me speed run this one real quick, and then we'll put all the add-ons in. Oh yeah, they changed it, so you no longer get crit damage, but you get plus 15 AP now. So, you know, I think that was a nerf, to be honest. Like, crit damage was a lot more higher in scaling versus flat AP, which, you know, it is what it is. All right, so same skill enhancements. I choose this one. So for both Succession and Awakening, these are the exact same things. Okay. Oh god, I'm gonna have to reset this again. All right, add-ons. Here's what we're going to change. For Awakening, you go into this line. Spirit Legacy, very important. What I would do is actually hold on. Let's start with the openers first. Grip of Grudge is a good opener. So is Spirit Hunt. Actually, let's just go down. Okay, so Spirit Legacy, one of your big damage abilities. I think you play Awakening a little bit differently. So I would put crit rate on here, and also what else would I put? So keep in mind, this is PvE. I guess maybe attack speed. When in doubt, attack speed is just, you know, you can't really go wrong with it. Next, I want Dark Nebula. I really like this ability. Sometimes when you first play Dark Knight and you use Dark Nebula, it might be kind of clunky. But I also think that this one is actually a very solid one. This one might be a little, you know, dependent on what you do, but I think Dark Nebula is a very strong one. Cluster of Despair got buffed multiple times over the past few years, and I think it's actually solid. Let me look at something. I haven't played Awakening since they nerfed it, so I want to look at all the crit rate abilities. So your big damage. Okay, do I really need crit rate that much? Crit rate on Cluster is 50. It doesn't look like Awakening needs... Yeah, Awakening doesn't really need crit rate, to be honest. So your important abilities are Shattering, Seed, Grip of Grudge, Cluster is very important. This one does not have 100%. And you don't really use your main abilities in Awakening, but like sometimes you do fillers, but ultimately these are irrelevant. So I don't really think you need crit rate in Awakening. Just let me double check this real quick. Yep, all of these are 100. Your heavy hitters are this one. Cluster you might, so I think it might be okay to just put like one. You don't really need to. Yeah, this one you might want to try to put one, but ultimately I think you can get away with not having it. Cluster. Okay, so you don't want crit rate on Cluster. Let me swap this around. I'll take plus 20. Actually, no, where's the plus? Minus 20. Minus 20 and crit rate. Cluster is, I would say movement speed, because this is usually one of your openers before dropping like the shatterings and everything. So crit damage. Shattering. I think usually I put Shattering before Seed. So if I were to do that, I want the DP on there. And then the other one, I think, let me just double check. I'm pretty sure Seed is a down attack. Yeah. So next we have Seed of Catastrophe. This is a down attack over here. And might want to swap that one around a little bit. See, what is the final one? Grip of Grudge is a decent. Spirit Hunt is obviously what you use to swap between Main and Awakening. You don't really need to do it, but it's kind of also an animation cancel. It's one of those things you could do. I think Twilight Dash is a nice one, but it's also 9 seconds. Trap of Vadir is 10. Yeah, Grip of Grudge and I think Spirit Hunt are the best ones because these are lower cooldown abilities. So you could do this as an opener. And I mean, plus 20 DP is nice, but Awakening DK is in range, so you don't particularly need it unless you're grinding high-end spots. And maybe another one of those. Let me see. Okay, so how does this look? Okay, so we have 2 crit rates. I think we can realistically get rid of 1 crit rate and then change this up to... We have down attack, back attack, crit damage. This is a flex spot. You could change that down to literally anything else. Your opener with Spirit Hunt gives you the DP and cast speed. That's really nice. Followed by Nebula and Cluster. Movement speed is up. Crit damage up. And then crit rate minus DP. So, let's see. Shattering. I don't think you need 2 plus 20 DPs. Since this one is a 3-second cooldown, you can just reuse it. So let me see. Do I have movement speed multiple times? No. So I'll change this one to... A lot of these, like bleeding is PvP recovery. If you have gear, doesn't matter. I guess you can have another crit damage and... What did I have before? Down and crit, probably. Actually, no, I want another back attack. Yeah, these two are just literally the same thing. You could change it up depending on what you want. I guess maybe a down would be fine. Down and crit. Okay, so opener, Spirit Hunt. You're getting a DP buff. You could probably flex that out with crit rate or attack speed. Or I guess we have that one, or minus DP, or movement speed. So opener into Nebula and Cluster. So the enemy is debuffed. Your crit rate is, probably 100% at this point. Your movement speed is locked in. And then you're dropping Shattering, Seed, and Legacy as your big damage after your 3 buffs are up. So I think that's overall fine. I don't think you need 2 crit rates, so let me see. Baby Vel. They brought back that boss. Interesting. Alright, so let me see. We usually use crit or Dark Nebula before Spirit Legacy, so we want to keep this one. So attack cast speed is one we want first, and then so for everything else, I guess what I would change is... How many attack cast speeds do we have? 1. Okay, so and change this crit rate from attack cast speed, and we already have crit, down, and back. and this is a 9-second cooldown, so we want something at least 10. PvE accuracy is irrelevant. PvP, I would absolutely put it on, but I don't know. There's actually a lot of not as much of a decision. I guess we could just move. Just have that one again. Just have another movement speed, even though this is probably going to overlap. But in theory, you could have movement speed up 100% at a time, because I can use these pretty equally. So that's what I want to save. So yeah, once again, here are my Awakening add-ons. This is a test. Spirit Hunt, Nebula, Cluster are generally your openers, followed by your big damage of Spirit Legacy, Shattering, and Seed. So you want to make sure to buff up with these three, followed by damage. Like, I do Shattering before Seed. That's why I have the damage up, but I guess it doesn't really matter if you do either way. You're getting the same buff ultimately. It's not a big deal. And Spirit Legacy kind of just like is usually what I use at the end, and kind of resets everything else, and then you Spirit Hunt again. So I think this is fine. Might have to mess around with it, but I think I'd be pretty happy with it overall. These are my add-ons. Awakening, I personally choose Seed of Catastrophe. It's just the safest one, especially for newer players. When in doubt, have extra super armor. If you're an advanced player and you know what you're doing, Stiffness is also really nice on Spirit Hunt or Shattering. And I've also seen people use Stun on Spirit Legacy. But when in doubt, if you don't want to think about it, just put Seed of Catastrophe. And what I would do if you're a PvPer, a lot of the top damage classes are, magic and casters. So magic DP is really nice. That goes for Succession as well. And then, yeah, that's about it. So that said, we're going to save this on number 5. Or actually, I don't know. We'll save this on 5 and then save this as Awakening PvE. All right, cool. So this one is my Succession. This one is my Awakening. And that's about it. So with that said, thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.